Hello and welcome back to the Kick and P podcast. I am your host, the one and only Prince, and we are back for another one, man. I got a special episode tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I got my boy Rickey in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the one and only Rickey to the show. Rickey, welcome to the show, big dog.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate you for joining me, man. How you feeling tonight?
I'm good, man. So, the weather pretty cool in Chicago. We finally get some consistent weather. In the city, it snow one day, then it be warm the next day, and then it rain the next morning. So it's consistent now. I'm enjoying it.
Summertime shower on the way?
It is on the way. It actually already started, I feel like.
There we go. But I wanted to have you on today, bro, because I wanted to have a discussion about just the educational system, the cultural perception about education, some of the flaws you believe the system has, and maybe just a few ways to maybe improve the system, and just your thoughts on the overall, educational standard that we have here, and not just the U.S. and just in Chicago, but, just nationwide in general. So before we get started and before we even jump into that, just give the people a little bit of background about who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit of what you do as far as working with the youth and just, just being a mentor to the youth.
Got you. My name is Rickey Layfield, born and raised in Chicago, graduated from Hyde Park Career Academy, so I'm from the east side of Chicago. Attended NIU, where I got my bachelor's degree in political science and emphasis in free law, and then I got my master's in education with an emphasis in student development. So I've basically been in nonprofit and student development for about 12, 13, 14 years now. I've worked in residential, I worked with youth on probation, I worked in school settings. I worked in regards to like counseling and mental health for youth. Currently now, I'm the Chief Operations Officer of Urban Mill Network, which is an organization in Chicago servicing the south suburbs all the way to the west side of Chicago, where we do like in-school counseling, we do youth development, workforce development, things like that, college career exposure. And then I'm a regional manager for Youth Guidance, Becoming the Man program, actually known as BAM. And BAM does in-school counseling for 7th through 12th grade for men. So you do group counseling, things like that. So I manage about 12 counselors that are in high schools and elementary schools all over Chicago. So yeah, everything I pretty much do is just geared towards the youth and the community.
Dope, man. Hell of a resume, man. Hell of a resume. And definitely want to commend you and thank you just for not only your service to the community, man, and just being a mentor to the youth. I definitely think we need more of men and the culture to take the initiative that you've taken and just living the life that you live in, man, and giving back the way you give. So I definitely want to appreciate you. I appreciate you for that, you know what I'm saying? And the culture definitely appreciates you. But let me get into these questions, man. Let's get into it just a little bit, though, man. So I'm of the belief that in order to truly see cultural change on a systemic level or on a national level, I think that it needs to start with proper education first. I think that being properly educated and having the right tools and right guidance and being given the right knowledge and wisdom is a crucial part in not only of individuals' growth, but a cultural growth as well. So with the current education system that we have right now, I feel like it's super, super duper flawed. So just coming from a premise where I think education is most important and the educational system is severely flawed to the point to where it's more of a hindrance than it is promoting actual intelligence and actual teaching. What are some of the biggest issues you believe that we currently have with the current education system here, in, not just in Chicago, but in just the nationwide as well?
Man, that's a loaded question, and I'm gonna try to answer it as best as I can. When I was in grad school and I was writing my capstone, it was transitioning males from the urban environment into the college setting, right? So basically figuring out what's needed for them to go from the environments they lived in and go to college to actually graduate. Because the reality is a lot of youth are not going to college, a lot aren't graduating. And I'm saying this as a person who's a component of any type of career or anything you need to be successful. So I'm not just only speaking like college is the only route. I send my youth wherever they need to go to shine, just being honest with you. But to that point, when I was writing that paper, I was working in the AUSL school, and the AUSL schools are turnaround schools. I mean, they probably closed down for various reasons, and they reopened now with a whole new staff to get the school back on track. So these were the schools that were like underrepresented. They were under, the grades were bad. They just wasn't performing, right? So as I worked at the USL school, they had something called like level 0, where it's like these are the levels youth can talk at different areas. So it might be in the hallway or in the classroom or even in the lunchroom. They had like level 0 or level 1. And we spent 2 weeks in the school year focusing on just discipline, right? As I was writing my paper and I had to research and read books, the books I was reading about the education system, and it was basically like, when you want to create laborers, you focus on discipline. And when you want to create creators, then you focus on creativity. So you'll have some schools where they're doing art, or they might just be doing play therapy, or they might just be doing music, something like that. And those are the people that they are creating to become leaders in society and creating to become free thinkers, and they're building them to become creators. And then we have some schools like USL schools where they're literally teaching them how to be disciplined so they could actually be built to be laborers, right? So with me knowing that, it kind of was disheartening. And to answer your question, I think that the value of education isn't there amongst our people because we are misled. We think education doesn't matter. And and I'm gonna be real with you, like, I'm first generation college student. Nobody in my family went to school, right? At least not before I did. And in my family, I've seen the difference between the education and not having the education. I'm just being honest with you. And that's not the only route at all. But statistically speaking, and this is me just giving out actual math, those who have the education actually make more than those without. Like, that's just math. 90% of millionaires and billionaires have college education. I'm just give you the math, right? It's all gonna be outliers. I think one of the biggest flaws that we have now is the lack of value, and it trickles down to our youth. You know what I'm saying? Like, we tell our youth to, open a business. When I'm an entrepreneur, bro. Running a business is way harder than me sitting there reading a book and answering some questions. I'm just keeping the book. Like,
it is.
like I've been a hustler my whole life, so I could kind of compare what careers I've been in and what I know or what I don't know. So lack of the value is there. Also, I think that the curriculum is trash in most schools. A lot of things that are being taught aren't helping our kid become successful in real life, right?
Facts.
So I'm a component of, you need all these things. Like, you should learn entrepreneurship. You should learn trades in the school system. You know what I'm saying? You should also learn reading and math. You should learn public speaking. A lot of those things I got in college by default because I was involved in college. But I wasn't getting that when I was in 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Now, mind you, some schools I work at, they have that. They have those classes. They're teaching them that. But the public schools I work in, not so much. So I didn't want to talk too much, before we go to our next point. But I think lack of curriculum and this lack of understanding and lack of seriousness. A lot of our youth don't think education is important.
Yeah. No, I think those are the two most important ones, though, bro. I think you just hit them on the head. I think it's the perception that we give education, like, as an overall culture. Like you said, I don't think that as a whole we value the importance of it. Like, I think we taught about it. We told that we should seek education. We should go to college. And to your other point, going to college might not necessarily be the route. You might have to go to a trade school, or you might have to figure out another way. It's more than one way to educate yourself besides maybe attending a university. But it's the emphasis on not highlighting and not being purposeful and not intentionally, like, putting a serious effort to have education at the forefront of the culture. I gotta agree with that 100%, bro. And then to your other point, bro, the curriculum as well. Like, last episode, I had a politician on, and I was kind of breaking down, like, the curriculum that my daughter has. Like, for her day, she's in school from like 9 to about 3, and actual learning and education while she's there is only about maybe 2 hours of actually, like, math. And how do you squeeze math, science, all the important shit that you're supposed to be learning into 2 hours when the other hours are just filled with recess, maybe gym, and then lunch, and then, it's filled with all these other things besides actual education and actual learning.
Do you know what that is, though, bro?
I'm trying to figure it out. That's what I want to know. Break it down to me.
The way our brains work is when you the way learning works is, like, it's weird. Like, the way we do some learning is we get some information, we study it, we have a test on it, we say we know it, and we move on. Now, if I was to ask you to go back to high school, you probably couldn't tell me a third of what you learned in high school because that's not how learning works. It goes in. If you don't use it all the time, it goes back out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you got somebody that's in a room for 5 or 6 hours, if all her hours were filled with just education, she wouldn't be remembering most of that, bro. It just wouldn't happen that way. You know what I'm saying? So like, it really most youth are in school because it was designed that way. So you have some way for them to just learn how to be in the environment for that long. They really most of education was made for people to, like I said, to have jobs.
Right.
Like, it wasn't really a learning environment. It's like, okay, we need you to go to the workforce. Let me get you conditioned to be somewhere for 8 hours out the day. You know what I'm saying? But it's not really a learning environment. Like, the reality is, you can really learn a lot of that stuff maybe in 1 or 2 hours and then go
Right.
about your day. That's why college schedules are
Right.
different. College
Right.
schedules are 12 hours a week. You know what I'm saying? 12 to 15
Right.
credit hours a week, or 18 at the max. You're literally in high school, elementary school, for more learning hours than you are in college.
And I
So
never
to keep
gave
that in mind.
it that
So
perception
like,
either. That's super interesting. Yeah, that's super
yeah,
interesting.
you
never
only
thought
that's
about
why I
it
tell
that way.
people, like, college is way different than high school. Way different. I didn't even like school, honestly, but I went because I needed those tools to succeed. I didn't have many options. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, college, you 12 credit hours, you probably got 12 hours of class that whole week, or maybe 15, or maybe
Right.
the max is like 17 or 18 in some schools. So yeah, you literally your daughter's literally in school more than most college students.
That's super interesting, man. So what do you think what do you think would be some of the ways we can maybe course correct to those two main issues? Like, I know it's a huge hill to climb up from, but what do you think will probably be some of the best ways to maybe tackle those two important situations? Getting the perception and changing the perception of the culture to maybe emphasize more education, and then the curriculum of actually, like, what they actually learn and why they are being educated.
I think, for one, we got to be more honest with people. So for right now, like, while all my students, trades are a trend, right? They all want to do trade schools, which I'm fine with. You know, I expose my youth to everything. I mean, I'm thinking about picking up some trades just because I'm tired of paying for stuff. So like, anything I put my money
It's
on,
good
I'm
to
finna
have,
go learn how to do it. Just being honest with you. But this is the downside to this. We are not honest. We don't give people the pros and cons of both. You hear the cons of school all the time. You hear it's a scam. You hear that you got to pay student loans back. You hear about people who are unsuccessful with degrees, right? You rarely hear about the cons of trades, and they do is this.
Yeah,
It's a cons to every career path. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk about the wear and tear in your body. They don't talk about the fact that during some seasons, especially when it's cold in your city, you might not have employment. You know what I'm saying? And people tell my youth about trades as an alternative to college like it's easy. Trades are not easier. You know, you're still going to school, you're still learning the skill. And that's why I have contractors now who I hire who are trash because they didn't apply themselves. They thought trade was just an option they could take to avoid college, when it's like, no, this is still real work, and you should take this seriously. You got to learn this. So I wanted to diminish, like, the stereotypes. Like, a lot of my youth are thinking that you go to trade school, it's easy, you get out the way, you want to avoid college. No, it's still school. You still got to apply yourself. I don't care what career you pick.
100%.
I don't care if you pick entrepreneurship, trade school, college, and military. You have to apply yourself. You have to take it seriously. You have to learn things. You have to be humble enough to take in what's being taught to you. Curriculum wise, I think it's going to just be a restructure, and it's happening. Like, some people are building their own schools, and the reality is most of the education system wasn't built for us anyway, right? Like, it wasn't built to our strengths. It wasn't built for us to grow. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. When it was standardized tests first coming out, Black people were actually leading the charge in actually excelling in those standardized tests more than their white counterparts. And they went back and changed the test up because they was like, how these Black people scoring this high? You know what I'm saying? So like, the education system has always been tempered to not really support us as a culture. You know, us in general, like, we're more into movement, more hands-on. And with that being said, the style of teaching has to vary based on each classroom. Some people learn, they're calisthenic learners, meaning like they like doing things to learn it. You know what I'm saying? Some people are auditory, like they gotta hear it. Some people are visual, they gotta see it. Some need all those things to do it. But our education system only teach you like kind of one way. It's like, it's in the book, it's on the board, learn it. But it's not really lessons in the curriculum to actually match all those learning styles. So that's one thing that really got to change. And I think the curriculum in itself, like Black history, not even a part of most curriculums in schools no more. Like, it's
I heard that's why I heard that they was kind of like removing that from a lot of the curriculum. So that's really true, huh?
nah, it's a real thing. Like, my boys now, man, in high school, we had like a little trivia game. We was paying them to like get it right for Black history. A lot of those facts they did not know.
Mm.
And I'm talking about basic stuff, like
The
stuff
basic
about
ones, huh?
Oprah or Rosa Parks, like basic. And they
Mm.
just not interested in it. One of my boys said, "Why would I care about something that already happened?" It's a black man
Mm.
that said it, black youth. So like, yeah, it's working though. The system is working. They're moving it. They removed Black History from the school. Our youth are not caring about it. They're not seeking it out. And with the government nowadays, you see what's happening in the media. Like with Trump is strategically removing Black history from websites,
Mm.
from the military history, and it's facts. Like it's
From the
something that
museums and shit too. I heard he was doing like removing like slave memorabilia from like a lot of the museums and a lot of
yeah,
Smithsonians and shit too.
yep. I even seen some books where they call slaves indentured servants, which is two different
Mm.
things. Slavery and indentured servitude
It's
are two
two
different
different
things.
things. Yeah,
So
completely two
yeah, bro,
different
to
things.
answer your question, like we got to build our own, man, and we had our own in a lot of communities. We had our own in
Mm.
many states and cities that got destroyed.
Right. So how do we? Because like you said, like we had those communities and we had those systems that we built up and they destroyed. How do we get to a place to where we could get back to something similar to that? Because it's becoming to the point where it's becoming like existential to our cultural progression and just being a culture that progresses through just evolving on this planet, like not being able to properly have a system where we could properly educate our youth. So how do we get to a place where we could start a person could find out how to open up a school or how to donate to a person who opening up a school or find a politician who's trying to implement certain changes to, you know what I'm saying, to the federal education system, or like how do we get to a place to where that's like I know where I could go to find a person who's trying to open up a school. You know what I'm saying? Like how do we get
Mm-hmm.
to a place of that?
So based on just my observation of history and the current climate, one thing that I noticed is that like the psychological damage done on us as a culture is real, right?
It is, bro.
Like even the
It
origin of our
is.
gangs was different before the FBI got involved to like create more feuds. Before drugs were in our community, before weapons were in our communities, so many black leaders were murdered. Like it's been years and years and years and years of damage done to our people to make
Mm,
us the way we are currently, right? And that's not even
yeah,
like also, like I would say this too, the media does a good job of only focusing on the negative of our people. A lot of my
they do.
shorties now are smarter than most of my peers, just being honest. The things they talk about from health to finances to family. I got peers I know my age, mid-30s and up, that don't even focus on that. But to answer
Mm,
your question, Malcolm X talked about this a lot and we kind of ignored it. We only focused on him fighting the back. Malcolm X was big on community economics, meaning
mm-hmm.
putting our money together to make more, right? Like
Yeah,
as a culture, as a people, we have a lot of income as a culture.
we do
You know what I'm
a
saying?
hell
Like
of a lot of it, bro.
in our communities, we have a lot of vacant properties. Like it's vacant land all through Rosa, all through Inglewood, all through the
Mm-hmm.
Woodlawn, all through South Shore. It's vacant properties everywhere, and people of other cultures don't mind opening up businesses in those neighborhoods. You will
Mm-hmm.
always see an Indian or Arab or a Chinese store in those neighborhoods, and they don't really get back to those neighborhoods at all.
Nah,
Maybe a
they
few and
don't.
far in between, but I've been to a million community events, and I rarely see people of other ethnicities come to those events that own
Yep.
businesses in those communities. So my biggest thing as a community is us building community again and gaining trust. Like block
Mm-hmm.
parties aren't even already really a thing no more. Like most people don't talk to their neighbors, and I'm guilty of this as well. Like my mother talks to people in the neighborhood. I'm one of the guys where I'm going about my business, and I'm
Right.
establishing now how to be more open to communicate with people. And I
Yeah.
don't mind working with people to create more and build businesses. We can't do it on our own. We just can't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest thing, man. Us working together. Like, there's a lot of resources out there in the community. Like, it's a lot that exists, but you got to come outside and come to some meetings and be
Mm-hmm.
on social media to seek it. This being
Yeah, that's a
honest.
fact.
So
Yeah.
the education system is what it is, and we got to play that game until we can actually change the game in our favor. The first start to that is building a community and putting our resources together. Real
Mm-hmm.
talk. Because
That's
as
super
as
important.
the fist is always stronger than the finger. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Malcolm X talked about it, community economics. Like we got to really use our resources together to make things happen.
Yeah. Facts. Now I agree 100%, man. I think like you said, like the psychological damage that was done on the foundational Black America, I think is just it still has a severe effect on the psychological of the culture overall. And it's super bad. And it's to the point to where we kind of like became our own worst enemy now. To
Mm-hmm.
where now we don't even they don't even have to put their foot on our neck no more. we just we it's like we kind of like tying a rope ourselves at this point. And until we could get to a place like you said where the community is actually there and resources is put behind the community, we won't even then we'll be able to focus on like getting the educational system together and shit after that. But like I said, I agree with what you're saying. At first, the nucleus family has to get together, and the community itself has to have a cohesive balance with the nucleus family. The family and the culture has to go hand in hand as far as what's being pushed and what's being taken in from outside coaches as well, bro. So I agree with you 100%. But let me ask you this: how important is the parent involvement of the child in the educational and the learning development of the youth these days? Like, how important is the parental role in educating the kids, in your
Bro,
opinion?
it's everything. Like when they say take a village, it's real because the reality is this, bro. Like I remember a post. It was like, if you don't have kids, don't think about my kids. And I kind of laugh at it because me working in education, I know so many people that are teachers, coaches, security guards who don't have children, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they're with your kid 8 hours out the day. And the reality is, when your kid goes to school, if they get involved in any extracurricular, they probably not come home at 6 o'clock at night. They probably
Mm-hmm.
doing some
That's right.
homework, or they're gonna be in your face for maybe an hour or two. They're going to bed at 9, 10 o'clock, or playing the game, or on the phone with their friends, or texting, and you ain't gonna see shorty. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So one, like, twofold to this answer. You gotta trust the community and get to know the community. And I said it because as a mentor, bro, I've been working with youth literally since 2012. I could probably count on two hands how many parents I really met.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds. I work with hundreds of youth. I could
Mm.
probably count 10 to 12 parents who I've actually met with all the kids I work with. This
Mm.
being honest. And that's report card pickup. That's the games. We done took kids overnight to trips before, and I probably
Mm.
never met the parent, right? And my
Mm.
mother was a teen parent, but she just wasn't going for that. Like, it
Right.
just wasn't happening. Like, she wasn't letting me go nowhere without understanding who I was going with. And I'm
Yeah,
happy the
fact.
parents trust us or trust me and trust the organization and trust the people, but it's like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Whereas
no, it is.
when I worked in the Latino region and I had all Latino schools, I used to see all the parents, bro. Like
Mm.
literally, like I would see 80% of their parents come to the school for events, report card pickup, and the family involvement was just different. Now that
Mm.
that might mean that everybody in the family is not working and they had the opportunity to do that. I know in my household, like my mom and father used to have to go to work,
Right.
and they rotate schedules and stuff like that. So I get it, but at the end of the day, like, it's extremely important, and we got to trust each other, man. The reality is, like, as a parent, like, you're not gonna know everything. You're just not.
Can't.
Nobody knows
Yeah.
everything. Some
Yeah.
things other people specialize in. To be honest, I see a side of your son that you might not ever see. And with me working in youth mentorship, I know that with me, he might have a whole different side in the streets versus with certain
Mm-hmm.
teachers versus with the girls he
Mm-hmm.
talking to. Like,
Versus
we
when
got
you
to
at the
talk to all
crib.
those
Yeah.
people to put a big picture together. Like, I done
Yeah.
had youth who was terrorizing the school, and I never knew it because when they came to my groups, they were a different person.
Right.
Cause our relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's
Mm.
up, Layfield? How you doing? They was the best guy in group. They kept everybody in line, but I might have put up on them on 75th Street, like Terrence, like, that's you, you know, like for
What you
real.
doing out
So
here?
yeah, the parenting piece is essential, man. Like, parents make a huge difference, bro. Like,
Yeah.
my
Mm.
little brother's autistic and nonverbal, and him acting out and being wild, it don't happen because my mother was never allowing it. She just
Mm.
wasn't. Like, she was putting the time into developing him, even though he had his disability, and she made sure that was just what it was. Like, she wasn't allowing him to act out, act wild, act crazy, none of that. Like, she had to parent him, even though he's autistic. So that's how I know, like, a parent can make a huge difference in the upbringing of any child.
Mm. Agree 1,000%, bro. I think the same thing. Man. I think it's kind of to where like people get comfortable with just sending their kids to school and just tasking the school with the overall education of the kid. And we gotta get out of that mindset of doing that, bro. We
Yep.
gotta be in the home actively teaching the kids real knowledge and real wisdom and not just leaving it up to the state, man. Because like you said, their objective is not to produce thinking minds. Their objective is to produce workers who could work an 8-hour shift 5 days a week, 40 hours, you know what I'm saying? 40 hours for
Bro,
the week. So,
I'm a component of, as a culture, we gotta be able to have our own systems because we see the
yeah.
government now. there's been so much federal funding that was frozen for education in Chicago. It's crazy.
Mm.
It was so much funding that was even frozen or cut for community organizations. It's crazy. The budget for
Mm-hmm.
youth services in Chicago was like at a $4 million deficit or cut about $3-4 million. Like a lot of things, like even like black farmers, like they're at a deficit now, trying to even create food and farming. Like a lot of things we rely on the
Mm-hmm.
government for, we're seeing in real time that we can't rely on it. Like $1 billion, I think was used for like immigration control, and we're literally losing money in everything else as far as
Everything
services
else,
go.
bro.
So you really can't rely on the government or state or the school. Like I'm happy that it's there, but you got to
Yeah.
be able to, if it came down to it and you have to homeschool your kids, you should be prepared.
You should be fucking prepared,
Real
bro.
talk.
And it's like, I just don't. I'm stuttering and shit, bro. It go back to the it go back to the psychological damage, because it's like, how many times do they gotta show us that they don't have our best interests at heart? It's like they show us they hand over and over and over again, and we just keep placing our livelihood and our just our survival in their hands, when they proven time and time again that they don't have no intention to actually give us what we actually seek. And so it's like, when is we gonna stop putting our fate in their hands? When is we gonna start realizing that we need to come together as a culture and have our own school systems, have our own grocery stores, have our own farms where we growing our own meat and growing our own vegetables in our own grocery stores, and we got our own doctors and we got our own, you know what I'm saying? Not to the point to where we excluding nobody else, but to the point to where we are the ones controlling that culture, and we are the ones that's controlling that the economics that come from, you know what I'm saying, us spreading our money around and us controlling shit, bro. We need to get to a point to where we know better and start doing better. But the shit is it's way easier to say than it is to actually do, bro.
It's
Which
hard,
is
bro. I mean,
it's hard as hell, man.
like I get it, man. Like it's hard. Like I'm at the point where I was working full time, part time in the community, and luckily, like I don't have children now, so it's like I could move around like that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like I am a product of a teen mom, and I seen how much she worked. You know, so like I ain't gonna say it's easy to do. It's not easy at all to do. That's why the
Nah, hell
community,
no.
like you really gotta rely on each other. Like you gotta rely on the community. That's all we got at the end of the day.
No, that's a fact, man. So let me give you a couple of stats too, man. Because so as far as this is from the NAEP and the Nation Report Card, as far as reading proficiency and math proficiency. So fourth grade reading proficiency is at about 30%. Eighth grade is about at 30%, and 12th grade is about 35. For the math proficiency, because they do about 4th, 8th, and 12th grade, they got for math 39%, 28%, and for 12th grade math proficiency is about 22%. So 1 out of 5 students are proficient in math, and 1 out of 3 is proficient at reading. Where do you think the lapse is coming in at, as far as why the statistics is showing that the kids ain't grasping just the basics on math and reading? Is it back to what we're saying as far as maybe the curriculum, or why do you think the numbers is decreasing the way they decreasing?
I'm gonna be honest, bro. So I used to be a special ed classroom assistant, right? My first full time job, I was working with special ed students. I had one teacher that used to struggle teaching kids concepts, and they even had me doing literacy lessons. And I had a 6th grader who didn't even know the alphabet, right? And I'm working with him, and I'm trying to get him to learn it. And I've seen this other teacher struggle, but it was 2 special ed teachers. I would go sit in the room with the other teacher, and it was literally night and day. Like she knew how to teach them these things to where they picked up on it, and it would stick to them, right? And I'm just sitting there like, these are the same kids at the same school, and the delivery was different. I really think that it's everybody's brain is different, bro. That's why we're like, when I make a flyer or something for an event, I'll make something. I'll give you an example. You remember the viral thing where they had the dress and people was like, man, it's black and gold. It's blue and black. Remember that? The reality is I found out how to split my eye to see both versions. But what it taught me was our brains pick up information differently. You know, I think what's wrong with the education system now is that we only teach things one way in most classrooms. Not all, but we teach it one way. And when that happens, like for me, like my math was always up and down to where like I either sucked at it or I had like honest math, right? And it all was based on the teacher and how they taught the subject. Like I legit had some teachers that made me unlearn stuff because the way they taught it, I was not grasping. I'm like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
Some people are better at breaking down concepts for it to make sense, and for those who are learning, they're picking up on it. And I'm just being honest. Like, I think that really matters, and the relativity to what we're learning. Like, for example, like when I tell kids just to count change, learn how to count change, they might not get it. But when I was a kid in kindergarten and first grade, and we had snacks, and I had to count the change the right way to get the snacks, best believe, bro, I'm sitting there like nickel, dime, dime. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
I also think like what they're learning might not relate to them. Like I still remember, say like the whole Mandela effect. I remember reading Nelson Mandela when I was in 6th grade, 5th grade, and I remember him dying in jail when what I read.
Yeah, facts.
I remember
did too, though,
because
low key.
it was relative to me as a black man, like what he was doing. A lot of stuff I had as a kid, it was relative to me. Like, and I still remember those stories because it stood out. I'm not sure, like, if what the youth are learning is relative to them and their cultural environment, if it makes sense for them to even know it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure how they're being taught it. Like, when it comes to counting, are you using counters? Is it just a sheet of paper? Are they using fingers? Are they using videos? Like, how are they learning this information and how are they retaining it? That's the thing. Like, if you're going to be a teacher, you got to really look at all those learning styles to teach in those learning styles.
That's super interesting that you just brought that up too, though, bro, because I was helping my daughter with her homework not too long ago, and she in 3rd grade, or she just finished 3rd grade, but early in the school year, like I think they started multiplications in 3rd grade, so she working on the multiplications, and I'm trying to figure out the way the teacher is teaching her, so I could teach her the way the teacher's teaching her, so I'm not giving her 2 different ways of trying to work the math problem out. So I'm like, so just break down to me how you being taught it. So she broke it down to me, and I'm like, this don't even make no sense the way they even teaching them to do
It's
it.
different, bro.
Like, you could do this shit the way we used to do it is way more simpler. I'm like, why are they teaching them this way? So then I talked to the teacher, and she was like, yeah, this is the way that we're taught to teach the kids multiplication now. And I'm like, this way is completely like the way they was teaching it, bro. It made the shit 2 times harder. So it's like, that's super interesting that you brought that up, man. So I could just imagine not being able to, because like you said, everybody is not a teacher, though, bro. Like everybody.
But to add to that, brother, I'm gonna ask you, how should do learn how to read?
How she learn how to read?
Yeah, was it sight words?
They did the sight word shit.
Even that was different for me
ABCs.
because we learned by using phonics, like how to sound stuff out, so we can read any word. A lot of youth I know learn with sight words, and the idea is that if they could identify these words, any words that are similar, they can identify too, and that don't always work with youth. It's like I know the word fork, but because the fork of the word
that don't make sense, because it could be pronounced different, even if it's
exactly. So even that in itself, I'd be looking like, what is this? Like a sight word? Like, no, give me the phonics so I can always pronounce based on these sounds.
Teach them how to sound this shit out. Like we used to be taught how to sound it out.
So a lot of your answers in there too, bro. Like they're changing the way things are being taught, and that don't mean it's easier for people to pick up on.
Right, and it's fucking not. It's way more complicated than it's like trying to give them some shit in a more complicated way on top of somebody not being effective at communicating properly. Is like, damn, I can see how the numbers could be down from that type of shit.
Yeah, and I don't agree with it. Some people feel like if you make something real rigorous, that they make somebody smarter. To me, intelligence comes from me being able to take a complex concept and break it down for anybody to understand. That's how I view education should be. I should be able to break down 8 of Einstein's theories to you, whoever it is, who wouldn't even understand it, because I know how to break a concept down for you to understand. I know how to break it down. And that's why AI, I'm not gonna lie, is like, it's scary, but you can tell AI, talk to me like I'm a 3rd grader. And they can take this complex statement and break it down to you like you in 3rd grade. Right? So like, okay, now I get it.
That makes sense now. That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
That's a fact. And everybody don't have that quality of being able to articulate and communicate effectively, especially with somebody who with their brain is still developing and they thinking about candy and playing. Like you gotta be of a certain caliber or degree to even be able to effectively like reach everybody when you in there. Like maybe a few, but to be effective at reaching all the students, it take a special type of, like, everybody's just not made to be no teacher, bro. Everybody's not made to be no teacher. So, but that brings me to my next question, because it's a high turnover, it's a high teacher turnover rate right now. I say about 27% higher than in the early 90s. 1 out of 7 teachers nationally leave or change careers like within the first year. So is that why do you think is a contributing factor to why it's such a high turnover rate for the teachers?
No lie. I had a police officer say this too. In my opinion, teaching is the hardest profession you could ever pick, and I'm gonna explain why.
I gotta agree, bro. I agree.
Like, for one, and I ain't gonna say the pay is bad because, like, I know teachers. All this information is public in Chicago, at least. A lot of teachers touching 90 to 120 bands. You know what I'm saying? But for the work, it's like in CPS, bro. I remember I worked there only for a year. It was like 20 different acronyms. It's so many standardized tests now. And when I'm at my school, we were so understaffed, bro. I was doing the special ed, security. I was teaching chess to second graders. And all the teachers there all had multiple roles. They wore multiple hats. It's to the point, I remember the principal was even in the classroom teaching them most days because we had teachers out on maternity leave. But my point is, like, teaching is that's one job where you really got to be there almost every day, on time. You know what I'm saying? And you can have a sub, but the more 9 out of 10, the kids not going to be learning what you left as a lesson plan. Like, the sub is going to be doing busy work because as a sub, you can have, all you need to be a sub is like 15 credit hours from college. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's like 2 years of college. Not 15, it's like 30, my bad. And you can be a sub. That means you know how to teach nothing. That means you have classroom management skills. And then as a teacher, bro, you got to be a therapist, a mother, a father, a big brother. You got to be a damn guidance counselor. You got to be probation officer. Like, you got to be so much in that classroom for kids to even focus on what's happening. And all these kids don't be at the same level of learning. They're not learning the same way. They don't have the same history. They don't have the same parent support. Like, it's hard. It's hard. Like, I know there's a lack of male teachers, and I would never go to the classroom and do it. Like, I do life skills. Like, I do that. And, I teach youth outside of the traditional curriculum. I might teach them law or entrepreneurship or something like that. But the actual, like, what you have to learn, bro, it's crazy, and they force you to teach it a certain way. They change, like, they force you to teach a certain lesson plan in most schools. You know what I'm saying? They force you to go about things a certain way. If kids don't have certain grades, you get blamed for it. And there's so many factors that can stop a kid from learning and picking up concepts. And it's not, it's just, it's hard, bro. It's hard.
It is, bro.
I commend all teachers that's in the field doing the work to death. When people say you a teacher, I say no. I never take the credit for that because I know what teachers go through on a regular basis.
They do go through a lot. And I used to be of the notion that, man, teachers probably get paid too much, man. I was probably one of them niggas, but the more I, dove deep into it, I'm like, they probably get paid a little bit more because, like you said, the shit that they got to put up with, man, and they wear more than one hat. They're not just in that teaching. They in there being the disciplinarian. They in there teaching emotional discipline. The right teachers, the good ones at least, they in there wearing multiple hats. So, and they're a big part of the development of the youth. So we definitely got to make sure the teachers is taking care of the proper way. But like you said, it's a tough fucking job, man.
Bro,
like I said, you got to be in the right place. You got to be in a place to where you patient and you got a certain level of discipline to even be able to deal with what you got to deal with. So it's tough, man. So you think that all those challenges is leading up to why, I'm saying, it's been a slight increase in teachers leaving?
And there's so many factors too. Like, and if I'm misspeaking teachers, y'all can reach out to me and correct me. But for example, like with me going into like the mental health field and working in social work, I get taught like how to maintain my own thoughts and emotions and how to separate the youth from what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get taught that. Like, I'm able to go in and have a calmer presence when I do groups. And my groups are probably maxed out at like 12 or 15 it's supposed to be. And I'm able to focus on social emotional learning. As a teacher, a lot of teachers themselves need their own outlets and therapists. You know what I'm saying? They're in the classroom with all these youth for hours. And from my understanding, like, they learn classroom management, but they're not learning like the personal development piece. They're not learning like the social emotional learning piece for themselves. Or it's not part of a lot of the teaching curriculum too. So most time I go in the room, it might be a youth that's tripping, but the teacher might be just as emotional. That's why you see teachers beating up on kids, all type of stuff.
It's a lot of videos like that going around,
And that's all coming from the lack of that training, to separate the two, to be able to deal with youth on that level without taking it personal, to be able to be in the classroom and teach without getting intertwined in what they're saying and what they're doing versus like You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a lot, bro. And some teachers, they be tired of it. And
They do,
some,
bro.
like our age or older, they come from the mindset like, you a kid, listen to me, do what I say, and that's not a thing no more. Like,
Nah, it's different.
adults have
Yeah.
lost respect to a lot of youth. Like, they lost the respect because of the drug pandemic and later on. So you can't even tell a youth nowadays, I'm an adult, listen to me. Because who are
It don't
you?
work the same.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
facts, yeah.
I raised
Yeah.
myself. Like, who you talking to?
Yeah,
Like,
you
you need
gotta
to
be
come to me
talking
with
about
respect,
something.
and I'll respect you in return.
Mhm.
But you just saying listen and be quiet. No, I ain't trying to hear that.
Nah, it's different, yeah. And the generation before us, our grandparents, they demanded that. And it's a little different these days. Now you gotta be coming with it to even be able to
Yep.
get what you're trying to get from the youth. So I agree, man. But let me ask you this too though. So do you think schools focus enough on emotional intelligence and mental health? Or do you think that's something that schools probably need to push a little bit more to the forefront as far as priorities?
It's becoming a thing. Like, there have been changes. So we got to create
That's
like a
good.
balance. Like, back in our day, bro, we used to get in the fight. You get 10 days. You niggas be getting 10 days suspension. You know how hard it
Mhm.
is to be gone from somewhere for 2 weeks and bounce back or be on track, right? Now
Mhm.
there's not a thing. Now there's more rules to suspensions, and some administrators hate it. However, like, it's there for a reason because, bro, they were giving out 10 days like it was a juice. Like, all right, 10 days, you gone. Like,
Yeah.
10 days, you out. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's been some changes. Like, I remember I was working in school, and you know how you'll get in trouble, you sit home. They have something now in some schools called a refocus room, where you'll come in
Mm.
there, you'll actually write down what happened, write down what you could have done differently, write down how you felt in the moment, and then talk to you about what happened. And eventually you go back to
Mm.
the classroom because you missing out the classroom all day ain't helping nobody. All
It
it's gonna
ain't.
do is make you be in there more confused, probably act like even more. So with the refocus room, you get to go in there and actually refocus on what happened. You get to reset. Like, all right, I messed up, I was tweaking, I got emotional, but don't make that
Mm.
bad moment a bad day. And now your ass ain't in the classroom at all, and you don't know what's going on. And when it comes to the
Facts.
test, you're gonna fail. You get into work, you're gonna be talking because you don't get it, and you want to just you want to distract yourself from the work. So they got refocus rooms now, like they focus on that social emotional piece.
Mm.
CPS now
That's good.
has like departments that focus on just the social emotional piece that we didn't have when we was in school. Like, that wasn't really a thing.
Mm.
You had like some school therapists and nurses, but the therapists was only for kids that had extreme cases. It wasn't just for
Right, right.
everybody that, you know what I'm saying, had something going on. And in our environments, bro, we all needed that social emotional learning piece because
Whew.
most of us had free lunch. And you can, if you're on a list for free lunch, that means you have a certain amount of income that your family is not making, or
Mhm.
is making, and you qualify for certain things, which means inherently your environment is probably more stressful than most,
Right.
right? And that's
Right,
just
that's a
the
fact.
data about the neighborhoods that we was going to school in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like schools are now like focusing more on it. Like, you have people whose job is social emotional development.
Mm. Okay, that's good then. That's good then. Because I ain't know. I was asking my daughter, do they have a counselor up there? She was like, I think so, but I don't know. I'm like, they
Yeah.
need to be. That should be a focus up there. They
So
should be making sure y'all good mentally, y'all in the right space emotionally, and they being taught certain things, man. Because like I said, it's more than just teaching them. You know what I'm saying, black and white. The curriculum. It's about them learning emotional discipline while they're there too, and how to be emotionally intelligent, and just learn how to just learn how to be in social environments. I think just need to be taught too. Like the curriculum and the math and science and the important shit is important, but since they there for 6 to 8 hours a day, it's also equally important that they being taught the things, like I said, that's not maybe being emphasized at home, how to react when anger arrive, or how to, you know what I'm saying, or how to have certain perceptions when it comes to thinking things through when you feel in a certain way. I feel like a huge push in that area as far as the schools needs to happen to where the kids can feel like they got a place where they can come to and just learn how to just sit with those emotions. You feel me? And learn how to not always act on certain emotions when they arrive at the time. So I'm glad to hear that though, but I think it needs to be a more, you know what I'm saying, push forward,
yeah,
especially with the times that we living in now, bro.
every
'Cause
school not created equal, though, bro. Like,
yeah, that's a fact too.
with all the schools I work in, like, it's a lot of schools, but like some school, I remember like when I was I think it's one of my schools, they used to have something like in the morning where they just do like an hour of just reflection and an hour of just deep breathing and relaxing before the day start, right?
Mm,
You know, some schools do have programs like BAM and WOW or Urban Male Network and things like that, where like the kids are in the school and they get an hour a week at least to just sit in the room and be free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then most schools have a behavioral health team where like they sit, like the administrators sit in that room and talk about what's going on with the youth. And that might be what's happening at home. That might be what's happening in the school building. But the professionals in that room can sit and talk and figure out resources for those families or for those youth. So like I've seen a few times where like organizations have paid rent for some kids or found therapists for them because they lost somebody, or like there are a lot of people in these schools that care about the kids, man. There are. I know it's not really highlighted in like the media and stuff like that, but I've been in some buildings where the staff generally like they putting in work in an environment you'll never know. Like the principal at Harlan, she don't play around, bro. Miss Jones care about them kids. I got a principal that's at Allgale that's in Allgale Gardens. The school escaping me, but Miss Badu, like she really care about those kids. Like I've seen a lot of staff members who really care about where they at and they care about their environment and they take it personal.
That's important, man, and that's what we need too, bro. That's what we need. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap this episode up, man. Rickey, I appreciate you for joining me, bro, and sharing your wisdom and sharing your insight, man. Any final thoughts for the people, man? Just on what we discussed and what we talked about before we get out of here.
Yup. Build community. You can't do it on your own. And I'm talented, but without my team, I'm nothing. So you got to build community and learn how to trust people. Give people grace. You never know what type of day they might be having. And thirdly, man, it's pros and cons to everything. Just make sure you looking at the bigger picture before you get information out, especially our youth. And 10 minutes of conversation a week to some youth might change a lot about them, man. Our kids not as bad as we think they are. Trust me.
That's a fact. That's a fact, bro. And until we stop looking at them that way, you know what I'm saying, then things will really change, man. So yeah, I definitely agree to a lot of what you said, man. Like I said, I think the whole shift needs to happen as far as prioritizing proper education. Not just, and again, I don't want to just speak to like university or college, but just proper wisdom and proper knowledge across the board. Prioritizing really learning and really seeking to learn, I think is super important. And until we get the community together, it's like a domino effect. I agree with you. Until we get the community part together, everything else will start to happen and fall into place afterwards. But we need to develop a real sense of community first and a real culture identity outside of the culture that we've been given or told that came from us, that didn't necessarily come from us, or that we don't necessarily need to be engaged in because it don't highlight and propel the culture. I think once we get on that page, then we could start working on proper education and proper wisdom and proper knowledge. So, but yeah, I think we're on the right track, though. I do think it's a lot of progress being made, and I just want to keep pushing that for the culture, keep pushing the importance of it, and just trying to get on the right page, man, to see everybody living a flourishing and happy and productive life, man. So again, I want to thank you, Rickey, for joining me, bro. We definitely got to do this again, man. We're gonna have some more topics, man. We're gonna talk about some other stuff too. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your work. Everybody, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all next time, man. Y'all have a good night. Peace.